That's right. Greetings, fellow Frostbite Falls citizens. It's your humble narrator, Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And this is Eli from Little Blue Productions.
And tonight, we're covering a stupendous event, a marvelous milestone of cartoon to live action entertainment. It's the 25th anniversary of the adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle. We're going to do the whole podcast in the narrator voice, fellas. What do you say?
I don't think so.
Nah.
All right. Okay, so happy to have you on board, Eli. You were the one that was really adamant that we do this, and I'm happy we did. I gotta say, revisiting this film, I definitely got a lot out of it. Very, very nostalgic touchstone for me. I have a lot of personal memories with this film, and I'm happy to say it really holds up. Dragon, I'm gonna throw it to you first. What is your point of nostalgia for this movie, and like kind of your impressions upon revisiting it?
So, I have very nostalgic memories of this movie. So let me take you back. Okay, HBO was back when HBO was the thing, before it was like now the detriment and the embarrassment of Zaslav, before any of that. HBO used to be like the thing. It was streaming before there was streaming. It was the idea of like this was like, kind of cable TV in kind of its infancy, in terms of like, you're a kid, you see a movie, and then eventually that movie might come to TV. It's like a channel of all movies.
Mm-hmm.
And the advent of movies from home, and if you had a VCR, you could tape those movies. You can get a free VHS tape in a sense. So like the lineup here was my lineup. I can recall it so vividly. Like the lineup of like the things they would it would be always like an HBO premiere. It was always like the big event. Like it was like a premiere, and then it would air like a whole bunch of times till you were sick of it. And then of course you taped it. You'd always have it. So the lineup of like the nostalgic movies, from like good or bad, mind you, just the movies I have such nostalgia for that were lovingly taped on VHS and watched over and over again. Road El Dorado, Inspector Gadget, The Iron Giant,
Yeah.
The Borrowers, and of course, last but not least, The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Nice.
That was the lineup. Those were the big five.
Somehow I'm surprised Cats Don't Dance didn't make it onto that lineup.
I mean, I did see it, but I don't know. I think that was... I don't know if that was one of the Cartoon Network airings.
That was more of a Cartoon Network theater joint, I think.
So that's the thing. I want to say that's how I first saw that movie. But it was either that... You know what, Tiki? It was either that or it was like a library watch, where you rented it from the library when they had the movies at the library. Remember?
Fair enough.
You had some of those, didn't you?
I had Bradley Video. I had Blockbuster.
I mean, there was Blockbuster, but I mean, there was still there was the public library.
My family was a Blockbuster family, Dragon. I don't know what to tell you.
I'm not saying they can't be a Blockbuster family. I'm just saying that, in addition to Blockbuster, did you do go to the library?
We went to the library to check out books.
Yeah.
Okay.
And to quickly comment on Cats Don't Dance, well, that became a part of the Warner Brothers family when Turner became a part of the Warner Brothers family. Cats Don't Dance came from Turner, so.
True.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Anyways, continue, Dragon.
Anyway, so just one of the original kind of cartoons in the real world, stories. One of the first times, maybe not the first time, one of the first times we kind of pulled.
What's about Roger Rabbit?
This is totally different.
It is different. It is.
Yeah. So one of the original kind of it was a trope that has become kind of reused and played a lot over the years. But this was kind of not the first time, but kind of in its infancy of one of the fine examples of when it was done. I think really because it was the most self-aware stab at it when you really look at it. They knew full on this is corny, but it's kind of our J. Ward brand of corniness. So I think we get away with it, and if we make fun of it, maybe people won't judge it so harshly. Unfortunately, they didn't. That didn't work, but still, it was appreciated. They tried that. For me, it worked. So it was a nice celebration of Rocky and Bullwinkle. I love the fourth wall jokes. I think it's just very cute, very nostalgic. There's a lot of love for the movie. Good, probably not, but I like it.
All right, Eli, what say you, sir?
Okay, well, so my my memories of Rocky and Bullwinkle, the movie itself, because now I don't know about you guys, but I want to say that the Rocky and Bullwinkle film was actually one of my very earliest introductions to those two characters and with their villains. But and I think because that's what the Rocky and Bullwinkle film was doing, was reintroducing the characters to a new generation, and how the movie does explain, because it had been many years since Rocky and Bullwinkle, their show got canceled. But and so I remember like when first seeing Rocky and Bullwinkle, I think it was on one of the Disney networks, because I do remember that I think it was Disney XD or something that showed Rocky and Bullwinkle. So that was the first time I had watched it, and I'm pretty sure that when I first watched it years ago, I liked it. Even still to this day, and having done a rewatch, I actually have some appreciation for it. And sure, it may not be the best, especially in the line of movie adaptations of Jay Ward cartoons, but to me, I find it a very fun and entertaining film. And since this is also a road movie, and as the movie specifically states, and I think that the animation quality to Rocky and Bullwinkle, I think still is pretty good. It has its charm, and I love the portrayals of the villains from De Niro and and Piper, what's her last name, Randy Quaid. Everybody just is the Rocky and Bullwinkle film good? No, but if anybody like me and you guys enjoy it, then that's good. We're all entitled to our opinion, how we feel about this movie adaptation of one of Jay Ward's cartoons. I mean, let's face it, the first George of the Jungle film is the best one, and even like Mr. Peabody and Sherman's right there too. But for me, I quite enjoy Rocky and Bullwinkle for what it is, and it's a very fun, entertaining film. That's pretty much all I've got.
All right, I got to push back on y'all, because I'm sorry, I unobjectively think this film is straight up good. I really
that's your opinion. That's good.
Well, I'm saying the critics didn't like it. I'm not saying I didn't.
Yeah.
Like it.
I have a lot of nostalgia for this thing, dude. I remember this was like back in my at the very dawn of my era of wanting to go see everything that was coming out in theaters. That was age appropriate for me at the time. Keep in mind, this was like back when I was seeing a lot of franchise stuff, because of course after this we'd have stuff like the Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter franchises starting up the year afterwards. Then then we had Raimi Spider-Man in 2002, and it was kind of off to the races after that. But this was like in the very early days. Like I remember I saw this the same year that I saw the cinematic classic The Flintstones in Viva Rock Vegas. And I specifically remember seeing the trailer for this in Viva Rock Vegas, and I got to tell you, it really captured my attention. Dragon, do you remember if the original cartoon Rocky and Bullwinkle, do you remember if they were airing? It's got to be either late night Nickelodeon, like Nick at Night, or late night Cartoon Network, like pre-Adult Swim. Because I definitely remember catching reruns of Rocky and Bullwinkle. Like, I was very aware of who they were before this movie as a kid. And it's got to be one of those two things. It's got to be late night Nickelodeon, like Nick at Night or something, or like Cartoon Network before Adult Swim happened. But either way, I think this movie, I think, really introduced me to the fact that, like, I found Rocky and Bullwinkle to just be kind of like charming on a surface level, just as a very little kid, 6, 7, 8 years old watching it. But this movie really kind of like shined a light on just how self-aware and cheesy and corny the whole thing was. And I don't know, I think this is just a really, really, really good production. I certainly think, as far as like animated movies, like it might not be the best Jay Ward adaptation. Like I'd say probably Peabody and Sherman probably wins that award, although granted, Eli, it's been a while since I've gone back to George of the Jungle, and I do remember liking that movie. So,
right? I do love George of the Jungle too. It's so
okay. Well, fair enough.
Yeah.
I can pick up on that. As long as we're not arguing for Brendan Fraser, Dudley Do Right.
No, not that. Well, I mean, I will say this: Alfred Molina Snidely Whiplash is fantastic. But aside from that,
I believe that.
And I also think also not just that, but Corey Burton as the narrator in Dudley.
Let's be honest, the casting isn't the problem in the Jay Ward movie.
No, it's not.
Well, I mean, speaking of which, I just can we just Boris and Natasha in this movie are just sublime. I mean, both of them are just right off of the cartoon screen.
Yeah.
The mannerisms are just phenomenal. So I can't wait to get into all that. But like I said, I think this movie really gave me a big appreciation for fourth wall gags. Like, I kind of dipped my toe in the waters of fourth wall stuff with the Muppets before this, Dragon. You remember that adorable story I had with the fork in the road and moving right along. It's like, oh, that's baby's first sight gag. That's baby's first pun for me. Like, I think that was probably the genesis of that kind of sense of humor. But this movie is definitely the first one that really captured my attention to my sensibilities. Like, this was definitely the same year as Emperor's New Groove, and I think it came out slightly before Emperor's New Groove. So it's kind of funny between something like this, Emperor's New Groove, and then a much less appreciated, but I still love it, Kung Pao Enter the Fist. I think those three movies kind of coming out right in a row for me, it really kind of shaped my sense of humor now that I think about it. And honestly, looking back on this movie, it really did. I'm not exaggerating when I say there's elements of this movie that really did kind of worm their way into the recesses of my brain, and I still kind of pull from them for my comedy nowadays. So, and I'm excited to talk about some of the funniest bits that I think are in this movie. So, all right.
I'm so surprised you like this movie, frankly, but I love it.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think I'm probably the most glowing out of it out of the three of us.
I don't know if that's fair. I mean, we're all equally nostalgic for this, I think.
All right, so we got some comments here. Let's see. Kogia says, Rocky and Bullwinkle was the first film I saw that had Robert De Niro in it. Honestly, probably me too, honestly. I would not be surprised if this was my first De Niro movie.
I actually can't remember what my first introduction to De Niro was.
And you know what? I feel like it's funny because I saw the trailer where, if you guys watch the trailer for this movie, they have the bit where the trailer announcer guy's interacting with De Niro. De Niro's like, "Are you talking to me?" The trailer guy's like, "What? Are you talking to me?" "No, I was talking about you." And I had no idea what that quote was from, but I just thought the interaction with the trailer guy was hilarious. I just thought that meta gag was really funny.
Do you still not know what that quote's from?
Oh, no, of course I know what that quote's from now.
Okay, good.
Obviously.
Yeah. Yep, Taxi Cab.
But I was
the title film is Taxi Driver, not Taxi Cab.
Okay.
I didn't say Taxi Cab.
No, not you, him, he said.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, let's see. Kokia says Joker is easily the best film that has Robert De Niro, but in terms of performance, I think that Robert De Niro's previous leader performance is the best of his career. All right.
I just give up on Kokia.
I'll acknowledge that.
I just can't.
Yeah, it's Jaden. Looks like a new viewer here. Happy to have you, man. He says, I loved this movie as a kid, and my only Jay Ward experience beforehand came from the crappy bootleg Hoppity Hopper DVD. That's a core memory right there. That's fun. Yeah, nice. That's funny. Let's see. Cookie asks, do you like the Dudley Do Right film that came out shortly before Rocky and Bullwinkle? Honestly, I don't think I've ever seen all of it. I think it's one of those things where it's I've seen bits and pieces of it on Disney Channel over the years. I don't think I've ever watched the whole thing. Okay, but anyways, without further ado, Dragon, I'm sure you have at least a little bit of background for this.
Oh boy.
A little bit. Okay, so background here is so J Ward Productions, they've adapted throughout the 90s. They had adapted a few of the properties. We had George of the Jungle, we had Dudley Do Right, and we had this. And technically, 92, we had a kind of a Boris and Natasha TV movie. Let's just say it was very trippy. How good it was, I don't know. Just judging from trailers on that one, but it looked ambitious, but again, TV movie budget, so kind of on the rim of what this thing was trying to do. Anyway, so the point being, since 92, since that,
mm-hmm.
The idea of let's do of doing Rocky and Bullwinkle live action was kind of like in the stratosphere. Like, well, we've adapted the other Jay Ward properties. Why not Rocky and Bullwinkle? But Jay Ward, he knows where his bread and butter is. He's like, oh man, I got to really, well, not Jay, sorry, Jay Ward's family and the production company. They're at this point, they're thinking, okay, look, if we're gonna bring Rocky and Bullwinkle to the big screen, we got to do them right. We got to do justice by them. So there's a lot of gestation and there's a long development period to get things just right. They were very protective of the characters and the humor and just getting the style of Rocky and Bullwinkle to screen. So ultimately, in the development process, so De Niro had a production. So De Niro is involved in Tribeca Productions, so that's him. And frankly, he needed money. Like by his own admission, he's gone on record saying, "Yeah, I did it for the money." De Niro did. You gotta remember, this is during De Niro's rough period in the '90s before he kind of found a groove. This is like kind of in that there's a lot of hit or miss in De Niro's career in kind of a certain part of the '90s.
This is like right before Meet the Parents.
Exactly. This is right before Meet the Parents.
He at least had Cape Fear.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. There's some ups and downs, but it was just the fact that De Niro was doing movies, and a lot of it was like the critics weren't loving them.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, mine's De Niro. De Niro had like some of the highest, most fantastic reviews in all of cinema for a while, and then of course over time, if you take every project, you're not always going to be a winner.
And now of course, he's in the Alto Nights. Womp womp.
You feel good kicking an old man while he's down?
A little bit.
Bad.
You can take it. I'm never going to be as rich as him.
Not with that attitude. To be fair, he has a very rich name.
Okay. This just got really dark. Okay, let's pivot away from that.
Moving on.
So, point being, so we're in the early 2000s at this. We're on the edge of the 2000s here in the making of the movie. We have I'm going to butcher his last name. Des McAnuff. So he had worked on the Iron Giant. I don't know if he's one of the story guys or not. I don't think he was. I don't think he was one of the main. I think he was one of the animators on the Iron Giant. So he ended up directing this. The writer of this was Kenneth Lonergan. Okay. Believe it or not, he went on to direct and write Manchester by the Sea.
Really? Oh my God!
No joke. So it just goes to show. Sometimes again, like we've talked.
I love that.
Again, sometimes it is amazing. Again, like that '90s, early 2000s period. How many of like the people that we know
really like that movie all that much? I don't really think it sits well past the first watch, but like that's just a stark contrast, man.
Oh, for sure. So it is surprising sometimes the names that we recognize and what they were attached to and getting to the things that we recognize. All right, so originally, Boris and Natasha, they had different actors lined up for them. They approached Danny DeVito and Meryl Streep for the roles.
Oh, Danny DeVito would have been solid. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see some other little factoids here. So ILM. So basically, what really helped this movie kind of get because of course the big question is how the heck are we going to render the moose? Will you believe a moose can bad pun? Like, how are we going to get there? So ILM.
The squirrel flying. That's not a big deal at all. The marketing sure hype that up.
Yeah. Well, the whole point is like the squirrel can't really fly well until it really counts.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, producer. Thank you. It's Jaden. He confirms he was one of the producers on the Iron Giant. There you go.
Nice.
So anyway, so ILM they worked on Casper at this point, and that was like a big boom for them. And that was like okay, I think we can nail kind of like these what they've done with Casper. We can kind of maybe carry over to Rocky and Bullwinkle in terms of adapting our cartoon property, via CG into the real world, kind of mixing the two environments, kind of like the updated Roger Rabbit kind of conceit, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they did infuse a lot of like Roger Rabbit's influence in terms of the effects. Now, I don't know if I imagine there's some sort of an update on what Zemeckis did, because Zemeckis' thing was a lot more heavily
I mean,
involved to be
essentially
as
what they're
seamless as it
doing here
was.
is like cell shading, right?
Yeah, so it's
They're
kind
taking
of
a CGI model and like kind of doing the whole like kind of like hand painted look over it.
yeah, but I mean they also had the kind of like what you saw in Roger Rabbit with the weasels in
Uh-huh.
Roger himself more accurately. Sorry, they did have dummies and stuff like to rehearse in the
Okay,
scenes. So,
okay.
like, there was like an interactive element, and they're doing a little bit of what Zemeckis did. But I imagine there's a lot more of like with the effect. It's kind of like look at the Iron Giant. The Iron Giant is a CG creation, but he's cell shaded to look kind of like a 2D element.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
So kind of in that respect, which I imagine would not be out of the realm possibility that our
Whereas I
director
feel like
maybe.
Rocky and Bullwinkle, it's kind of like the opposite principle. Like they're CGI creations that are cell shaded to look hand drawn.
And technically, this is the best Rocky and Bullwinkle ever looked, because Rocky and Bullwinkle was limited animation at its finest. So it was like, okay, well, this is like the most anime we have ever seen those characters in a sense, despite not being super anime at all when you really look at it technically.
No, the original Rocky and Bullwinkle animation, I mean, it's very much, honestly, Dragon, it's kind of, if you go back and watch like the first season, which I kind of did out of curiosity last night, I gotta tell you, man, it's bordering on like that Incredibles animated short territory, like with the moving lips and
Yep.
stuff. Like it's kind of that level of cheap.
And Pete Docter playing Mr. Incredible in that, by the way.
Yep.
The voice, the lips, the whole, yeah, it's him. Anyway, so Keith Scott. Keith Scott is our narrator, who's basically doing an impersonation of the original narrator, William Conrad.
Uh-huh.
Also, he's pulling triple duty. I mean, well, technically quadruple duty, but let's not get bogged down in semantics. He voiced the cartoon Boris, the cartoon Fearless Leader, basically Bullwinkle throughout the movie. So he's doing a lot of roles. This Keith Scott did flawlessly. So, and he was in one of the animated permutations of Rocky and Bullwinkle in the '90s. I don't know if it was like a research. Well, I guess it was before this. He had done the character there, and that's kind of where he was kind of like the Mel Blanc of Rocky and Bullwinkle to a degree.
Well, and coincidentally, Keith Scott did do some voice work for Bugs and Daffy.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's see. So also the director's daughter again has a cameo in the movie. She plays young Karen the little eye girl, Karen Sympathy in the Eye. So that's the director's daughter.
I did not know that.
Which might be why she has maybe a scene too many, if you ask me. But still, that's why she's there.
Right, yeah. It's like, okay, I thought we already wrapped up this arc.
And it's so funny. You can always say to his daughter, you were in this movie and you were just a gleam in the eye. Literally. So sadly, movie flopped. Flopped pretty hard. Critics didn't like it.
I would
not
not
make
make it.
Yeah, well, Tiki, you should have invited friends.
I didn't have friends.
And that's why it flopped. So the point being, the critics didn't really care for it, and it kind of killed off J. Ward Productions until Peabody and Sherman, frankly. So
Yeah, except for with the exception of Toon Lagoon still opened at Islands of Adventure.
Well, I meant like
the
in
year
movies.
before that. So I think I'm just saying, like Toon Lagoon and Islands of Adventure, like with the Dudley Do Right ride, that's very much like the biggest cultural staying power I think any J. Ward property has nowadays.
I have been to the Toon Lagoon. I have been on that ride.
That's fun.
Yeah, no, it's great. The little cartoony props and everything. It's like very underrated and sadly now bygone, right?
No, it's still there.
Oh, it is?
It's
cool.
Pulls in the lines in the summer, dude. They're not getting rid of that thing.
Oh, thank goodness. I was worried it was actually. I really thought it was gone.
No. The Popeye ride is still there as well.
Nice.
Yep.
And Koki, yes, you're right. I do remember Roger Ebert actually liking this. Smart man, that Roger Ebert.
Well, not always. He also
no, not always. You're right, but in this case,
well, he's the man who he gave one of the most as we saw, he gave a brutal review to a Goofy movie.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
And it was like he was like the last vestige of hope, by the way. Too, when we look at that, we saw that it was like surely Roger Ebert will at least say something nice about it.
Yep.
Anyway, that's it.
And by the way, I don't know if I don't recall on Natasha. I don't recall knowing that Meryl Streep was considered, but I know that Cher was also considered for Natasha.
Oh, I could see Cher, honestly. Oh man.
Yeah, that I knew about.
Iconic.
Take you still gotta watch Stuck on You sometime because Cher is in that movie, and it's pretty funny how they worked her in.
Okay, yeah.
It's really funny how what they did with her too.
All right.
All right.
Anyways, so do y'all want to start with the kind of the animated intro and then kind of like getting all the characters into the live action space and all those shenanigans?
It's probably a good idea.
Might as well.
All right. So I do think the animated stuff at the start, like, it's definitely not as cheap as season 1 Rocky and Bullwinkle is. Like, there's actually just a 10-hour video that you can look up on YouTube that's just all of season 1 of Rocky and Bullwinkle, by the way, if you're curious. I do really like that the animation is still cheap. I love the gag of the narrator having to move back in with his mother, and I love that actually has some emotional payoff by the end of the movie in the most silly of ways. I don't know. I just think we're really firing on all cylinders with this intro here.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's great. We open on the classic hallmarks of Rocky and Bullwinkle. The narrator being the biggest hallmark. I mean, honestly, let's be honest. The narrator is probably the funniest part of Rocky and Bullwinkle. He's always like, because all
I
the
think this is like weirdly the second thing in a couple months that you and I have covered, Dragon, where the narrator is probably the most memorable part of the whole movie. With this, and then you me, myself, and Irene.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, just want to throw it out there. I know you don't really care about this, but just going to throw it out there. Kevin Smith has been on like a huge Bullwinkle binge lately, as in like he's been buying and collecting a bunch of Rocky and Bullwinkle stuff.
I appreciate that.
Since it was like a response to the fires and everything. You just kind of went on a deep dive to Rocky and Bullwinkle and went to an auction. He bought a piece of
Dude, I could see Kevin Smith legitimately doing a good Rocky and Bullwinkle movie. Let's make that happen.
He did a script for like an episode. It was kind of like more of like on a farce thing because he did like a parody, like a movies parody, basically movies as like basically Rocky and Bullwinkle. Because
what if Moose Jaws just turns out to be a backdoor Bullwinkle movie?
Now if he makes Moose Jaws, there's going to be a lot of Bullwinkle humor in there.
Oh my god! Okay, now.
But I'm going to tell you.
Has there been any update on Moose Jaws at all?
I mean, not recently, but anyway. So, real quick,
yeah,
he's got a lot of irons. He just got Dogma back, so there's a lot of Dogma talk right now. So, anyway, I wanted to mention to you, Tiki, is that he actually bought like one of the decorations that was Bullwinkle from Toon Lagoon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because again, it was like it went to like an auction, like a Rocky and Bullwinkle auction. He could have got like one of the maquettes from one of these statues, one of the stand-in Bullwinkles from this movie, but he opted for like the thing from his childhood, like one of the first times he saw Bullwinkle go into the Toon Lagoon. So yeah.
Okay, well, to be fair, when Toon Lagoon opened, I think Kevin Smith probably would have been like in his 30s.
Fair point. Maybe I don't know if it was a different like Rocky and
was it maybe something from the Bullwinkle restaurant chain, Dragon?
That actually might have been it.
Okay, that more checks out with the timeline.
I don't know. Do you know where that chain is?
It was all over the place back in the day.
Well, I think if it was all over the place, then maybe that was it. Maybe
I'm sure there was at least a couple in New Jersey.
I'm probably misconstruing the Toon Lagoon on that one, but anyway. So
let's not turn this into a Kevin Smith podcast.
I know. We're getting back. The point being, our narrator is one of the best parts. Again, like I said, pulling double duty, like in our cartoon segment here, he's voicing pretty much all of our male, Rocky and Bullwinkle characters. I love how we set the period. It's 1964. We got LBJ, World's Fair, and Rocky and Bullwinkle is canceled after 5 years.
You know what's deeply upsetting about this movie on a rewatch?
What?
We are only 10 years removed from this movie being as far in the past as the 60s were from the time this movie came out. 10 years divides us from that being the case. Is that not existentially terrifying?
I think if you're looking for existential terror, Tiki, it is. But if you're not, it's like you're stretching to be terrified.
I'm just saying, like when the narrator's like 35 years ago in the 60s, and I'm like, that's not how long ago the 60s was. Anyways, I'm sorry.
So the point being, we set a meta tone right off the bat. We acknowledge the show's history within our narrative. I thought was I always really liked with this movie is that we kind of set it's an existing property, within our world, which even with the MCU and stuff. We have like Cap existing as like media and like comics and like serials and stuff in universe.
Yeah,
so
totally.
Doing that kind of thing is really, really neat. And our thesis kind of for the movie is
the idea that Rocky and Bullwinkle kind of like they live essentially their whole life. Correct me if I'm misinterpreting this in the movie, Dragon, but the real building in this movie basically suggests that like the entire like animated landscape that Rocky and Bullwinkle live in is essentially like the set of the TV show. And so once the TV show got canceled, the set was still kind of like it's there. They're still living on it, but it's kind of gone into a state of neglect.
I don't know if it technically counts as. I think just their world is the set, but like they know it's a TV show though. So that I don't know if it's like literally a set. I think it's just
I might be reading too much into it, but I just think I just think it is cool how like the fact that the show was canceled like so radically affects the actual world.
Yeah, but also it's a reflection of the times, and this is, I think, the thesis kind of is like we have these these very cute and innocent characters from a very simple bygone time, in today's world, with the wit of Rocky and Bullwinkle kind of commenting on like the 2000s. It's very on brand for what they would do back in the 60s.
Appreciate the homespun values of Rocky and Bullwinkle, Dragon.
Dare I ask?
I think Hank Hill would be a Rocky and Bullwinkle fan.
Absolutely.
Probably so.
Now you see, Bobby, that moose and squirrel, that's comedy.
You have to wonder if Hank Hill would try to hunt Bullwinkle, though. That's the question.
Oh, God. I could actually see an episode where it's like Hank Hill is like very adamantly against hunting a moose because it reminds him of Bullwinkle.
Yep. But I think it'd be like a thing where it's like, we're going hunting. And it's like,
right.
But Dad, it's like, what about Bullwinkle? This is Bobby, and he just thinks back to like his horrible childhood and like the most.
It's like he has like just a blah, blah.
He accidentally
Bullwinkle.
Then he accidentally, like the end of the act, the gun goes off and it wings the moose. He's like,
I killed Bullwinkle, Bobby. All right. Oh my God! Wow. Can you guys know we're excited for the King of the Hill reboot?
Anyways. Let us see if they might take your idea.
I would be shocked if they did, but.
All right. The point being, it's great. We're very on brand with the humor, which they reflected the times back then. They're reflecting the times now. It just seems it all seems very right, and our animation's like not as limited as the show, but again, it's kind of like
it's still on brand though. It's still on brand.
It's on brand. It's in a weird equivalent. It's kind of like almost the almost kind of like. In a sense, it's like the Phantasm in terms of the best the best Rock and Bull will ever looked technically, just given how limited the animation was. This is best. This is the most cinematic they will ever look ever. Which is dated as all. Again, they're kind of critic proof in that regard. For like if the animation is a little good, well, that's the whole point. They're fine.
Right.
So our cartoon to live action kind of plot of it all here. So, again, Rocky and Bullwinkle being self-aware as they are as a property. Again, we can get away with some hokey plot elements and some hackneyed kind of jokes because again,
like literally everything involving the actual like logic of how the cartoons come to the real world and interact with the real world. It's all nonsense. It's all just strictly like silly cartoon logic, but that's obviously like the joke and the vibe of the movie, and I think the movie is really committed to selling that.
Yeah, like they're making fun of the absurdity by doubling down on it. That's
right.
So like Minnie Mogul, played by the wonderful Janine Garofalo.
Great cameo.
I every time I watch it, it's like a delight. Like, oh yeah, she's in this. Oh,
every time like Boris and Natasha show up, and they're like, "Hello, Minnie."
And I like how she's just totally unfazed that she's talking to cartoon characters on the television. Like, she's not surprised.
Yep. So, Minnie Mogul, she basically, I love the contract. But we call it out in the narration, the whole like thanks to computer animation, she's able to sign the contract. I can't allow three villains I can't sign a contract with three dastardly villains.
Can't.
Why? Says my pen's out of ink. Oh, use mine. Use you can borrow mine. Just reaches into the TV, signs it, and this great corny joke of like, how do we bring him to live action? Well, they're hanging on to the contract, a little tug of war, and they get pulled through and like knocking over film cans. Like, we are attached to the project. Just great.
It's the one time we see them in their wardrobes, just like in the thumbnail.
Yep.
In live action.
Yep.
All right, so we need to break down the casting here.
All right, go ahead.
So what do we all... I think Jason Alexander, honestly, like, I think Danny DeVito would have been great, but I think the thing with Jason Alexander that really works, where I kind of question if it would have worked with Danny DeVito, is I really feel like Jason Alexander in this movie is kind of a chameleon, man. He really kind of just blends into the role. Like, you do not feel...
Everyone underestimates how good an actor Jason Alexander is.
I would agree to that, too. I think that Jason Alexander, DeVito would have been a good choice, but I think, definitely...
I just feel like if DeVito was in this, it would have just kind of been DeVito playing DeVito, though. Whereas I feel like Jason Alexander, and you're right, Dragon, Jason Alexander, he is like a classically trained theater actor, I believe.
Train Mark Sipka for a day.
There you go. Yeah. You go. Right. True story.
But seriously, Jason Alexander, he thinks about these characters. He has the mannerisms and the movement. Like, he thinks about every detail. I really think
he just he embodies the character. Which, by the way, we got to call this out. The original Boris, voiced by the absolutely legendary and incomparable Paul Frees.
Paul Frees. Yep.
Of course, one of the legends of the Disney parks, the narrator of Adventures Through Inner Space, The Haunted Mansion,
the Ghost.
He's the magician from Frosty and Jack Frost.
Yep.
And
voice actor in the 60s.
Yeah, he was basically he was pretty much the Lucky Charm of Rankin Bass, another iconic role. And his other iconic role from Rankin Bass is Meister Burger.
Yeah, just all kinds of iconic roles throughout the 60s and 70s. So got to give the flowers to Paul Frees here for originating the role. And I think Jason Alexander, he just really embodies it, man. He just really goes for it. And then Renee Russo, I think just as good. I think Renee Russo, specifically, her body language is just so funny in this movie. I think she just really nails Natasha's style and vibe and like the pointiness of her animation.
Especially with Jason Alexander and Renee Russo having so much great chemistry as those characters.
Mm.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, they feel like they've known each other for a long time. You know, they know each other's rhythms. It feels like, it's been like 35 years. It's the same runaround, with these guys. And it's the fact that also Renee Russo, again, like, has been in comedies, but, let's face it, it's not really been like, the driving force of comedy. So seeing her being able to like, play this and essentially, kind of playing the character very straight within the absurdity, it's great.
Yeah.
Like, she really did care about it. Like, she begged June Foray to, like, please, can you do the voice just so I can, kind of get the rhythms, and which was really cute. And it's like, everyone giving June Foray the flowers here, which again, June Foray, again, the original carryover here. Like, she's,
Yeah, and we'll get to her. But no, I really do think that this movie, like a lot of what makes this movie works as well as it does specifically in the cartoon to live action translation, kind of rests on these two shoulders. Unfortunately, I do think Robert De Niro is kind of one of the weak links in the cast. I think I'm sorry.
Look, De Niro is complicated in that. Okay, look.
On a rewatch, Dragon, it's very obvious that he's kind of just sleepwalking through the role for a paycheck.
I mean, look, you say sleepwalking.
Like Jason Alexander, Renee Russo, they're committed to the bit, man. I feel like Robert De Niro, he's just kind of there.
You say sleepwalking, I say, look, De Niro's having a little bit of fun. He's not taking it seriously. He looks good in like the get up and everything. And look, here's the thing. Yes, it is very trailer notwithstanding. It is very painful when we do the Taxi Driver. reference.
It's so much more funny in the actual trailer because there's like a meta quality to it. Yeah.
Here it just feels very awkward.
All right, come on, here we go.
And you are lying!
Yeah, and you are lying!
I gotta admit, okay,
I love
you got
that.
tell me you don't think it's at the very least it's kind of there's the absurdity of we have Robert De Niro of all actors at the end of this movie getting charged by Bullwinkle.
No, that's fun.
How great is that?
There is a charm to at least. I mean, look, he looks like he could be a good fearless leader, but it's not really a fearless leader's barely a role anyway because everyone loves Boris and Natasha more. Fearless leader's always like the figurehead. He's got a role where nothing. He just has to look good, which he's doing. That's all. That's it. That's all he does.
And if I could comment on De Niro because I didn't say that much on what I had to say about De Niro in the film,
go on.
I really. Unlike you guys, especially you, Tiki, I really enjoy Robert De Niro's performance as fearless leader in this. Because I think, like what you said, Dragon, because he's having some fun and such. But I think that he did a pretty excellent job portraying and bringing to life the character of fearless leader. And I hate to say this, but I'm entitled to my opinion when I say this. I feel like his villainous role of fearless leader has to be right up there for me, but right next to say his other villain roles in Cape Fear and Taxi Driver. That's just
Come
me.
on.
That's just me. I'm just simply saying.
Look, I think De Niro is doing the best he can.
I agree with you, Eli. If it's any consultation,
I think De Niro is doing. Look, I don't think De Niro is doing a bad performance here, but I think he's doing. He has a limited performances. There's only so much he can do within what
I do think that Kokias did make a really good point here, where he says that essentially what Robert De Niro is doing in this movie is a performance that's kind of like worthy of the Adam West Batman show, and I agree. I do think it is in that kind of level of camp. I don't agree that he should win an Oscar for it. I think that's silly. I mean, respect your opinion and everything, but that's kind of a silly notion. But
well, I'm not saying he should have deserved an Oscar nomination.
No,
saying that.
Yeah. Thank you. But thank you, Koki Oz. You're on the same page as me. So.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to Karen's sympathy.
Yeah.
I really like this character a lot, honestly. I've got to say,
I am shocked that you like Karen's sympathy, frankly.
As an adult, I like her more than I liked her as a kid. As a kid, I kind of thought she sort of distracted from the plot, but honestly, as an adult, I can see just how in on the joke she is. I can see how she, she really is that kind of absurd side human character that can get involved in the Rocky and Bullwinkle adventures in the show, and I think she fills that role pretty well. I just really like the idea that she's this FBI agent. The inner child stuff plays really well for me. She has the funniest fucking gag in the whole movie, in my opinion. Y'all want to guess what that is? What I think the funniest gag in the movie
is it the courtroom?
What?
The courtroom. Is it the courtroom he's asking?
No.
Oh, then lay it on us.
No more guesses, Dragon?
Well, okay, is it the canon thing? Like when she's telling Boris how dastardly he is, and then she steals the car?
No, that's funny.
Or is it? Or let me take a guess too. Or is it the part where she's talking with that cute prison guard?
That's part of it. That's not the.
Okay.
The prison guard is involved with what I think the funniest.
Wait, is it when she tells the narrator shut up?
No, that's part of it. I love the payoff that the fucking prison guard is still at the movie theater, and he's got the stubble, and he's basically like a bum, cooking hot dogs.
Yeah.
I love that payoff. That payoff just lives in my head rent free. It's so fucking silly. Oh man.
At least he took it well.
Honestly, I would be down to see this. Robert De Niro, fearless leader, Alfred Molina, Snidely Whiplash. That is a legacy sequel I would welcome.
Yeah, but chances are I don't think De Niro would want to do it.
I don't know. I think De Niro's down to clown and stuff.
I mean, especially since how many kids he's got, I'm sure it wouldn't hurt for him to do it.
Yeah,
it wouldn't hurt.
He did just have Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, like, he's not desperate for, like, a prestige movie. I feel like he's kind of, like, in the one for them stage of his career at this point.
I mean, look, he did Dirty Grandpa, and then he ends up doing Killers of the Flower Moon. So nothing's off the table. You know, he can go. He can do anything he wants, really.
And a new Fockers movie is in the works. So
yeah.
Oh God, what the fuck?
Well, that might be the title.
We should have the facts be the new Fockers Dragon.
Yeah, we should.
Anyways.
It's like 12 of them or something, anyways.
I think the facts would basically be like a crossover between Meet the Fockers and Home Alone.
Called like Nothing But the Facts.
Oh God.
Now,
or Fact You.
Now, if I just I'll say something else about Karen, because yeah, I mean, I like Karen too in the film, and Piper, you know, I think she's a good actress. I think, I don't know, it's like between this to Cheaper by the Dozen and Covert Affairs, those are some of those that I most prominently know her from. But yeah, I think that, yeah, with what the character of Karen has to offer.
I think for our purposes, I think the most memorable role she's been in is probably Looper.
Okay, well, I mean, that I'm not too familiar with, but my point being is that, yeah, because Karen in Rocky and Bullwinkle is a pretty good character, and, you know, the fact she's trying to be a tough FBI agent, but just sometimes flipping out her, like, you know, being a fangirl of Rocky and Bullwinkle and such, just, yeah. Just overall, I mean, I really like Karen as a character, and her chemistry with Rocky and Bullwinkle, and just even when she interacts with, like, at breaking the fourth wall and seeing her younger self in her eye, just, yeah, that's all great.
I think Karen's a really fun concept and a really fun conceit, but there's a problem.
That is.
So, while I love it when she interacts with Rocky and Bullwinkle and the fangirl, everything you said, the problem is, like, we come up with reasons to separate her from Rocky and Bullwinkle for the large majority of the movie, so she barely spends any time with them if you really look at it. It's like every time she's
that's
there for, like,
a problem.
We set her up, okay, we have the wacky road adventure, and then instantly, okay, so gets arrested, gets thrown in prison, very quickly, might I add. Then there's a whole breakout, then they get back together only to get into a plane and be separated again. And then she get at the end of the movie, it's like, oh, I've learned so much from you two. When did you learn so much from?
I mean, granted, she did watch their show. I mean,
yeah, she watched the show, so she likes him. She can still like him. She didn't learn anything from him now.
So basically, not in person.
Yeah,
themselves. Yeah,
not in person. I mean, like she bonded with Rocky. That's the most I can give her. That's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, I like her. That's the one problem. I look back on the movie with a fine-tooth comb. Like,
she's not that deep of a character. I do think she has a good screen presence to her, though.
Yeah.
I really like.
I wish she was there more. That's the problem. I can't put. I want her.
But I do feel like, again, the side stuff she has with the prison guard is really funny. Though.
Yeah, it's funny.
I don't really think we spend that much time separated from. I think probably the bigger issue is that once she gets reunited with Rocky and Bullwinkle, it's like then her and Rocky go off on their own side thing, like almost immediately after that. So that's kind of an issue.
Yeah. I don't really check on the flyover either, but you know.
All right, let's see. I feel like we're passing up on any number of really good kind of like meta bits. Is there any?
We gotta talk about like the green light.
Yeah, the green light.
Yeah, the green light for sure.
Okay, so our FBI director.
Also, of course, I mentioned it beforehand. Like I kind of shouted it out, like in passing, but I do love the Roger Rabbit line.
Well, we'll get there with the CDI. Let's talk about the green light first.
Yep.
Okay, so long story short, FBI director, the Randy Quaid character, he brings on Karen to get the green light for the Rocky and Bullwinkle movie because the movie had been shelved. Which again is kind of meta in itself, talking about how the movie was kind of in development for a while. It was shelved because the head of Funny Picture Studios, Carl Reiner, I don't like moose pictures.
I don't like moose pictures.
If they made this movie today, that would be Jonathan
Most
Banks.
ridiculous prejudice ever, dude.
Imagine we had Jonathan Banks delivering that line.
Oh my god, it totally would be.
I don't like moose pictures.
I don't like moose pictures.
Too Canadian. So anyway, so I love, as a kid and still to this day, I love the whole green light sequence. And this to me feels like that this is like trailer fodder in the best of ways. Where it's like this sells a ticket just instantly for me. We're okay. Infiltration to this lighthouse kind of location. We literalize the green light to beam Rocky and Bullwinkle from the cartoon plane to the real world, and we have like all the little dials and settings to put it like it's a road movie. It's kind of an action fantasy or something. It's all this, kind of a comedy and all that. So we even the narrator gets beamed from his mother's house, and the fact that in retirement he's just narrating what his mother's doing. His mother voiced by June Foray,
which is great. That's a wonderful little addition.
Yep. So just fantastic. It's just nearly Mom.
I genuinely love the emotional arc that we have where, the narrator, like, he doesn't like the fact that he's living at home, but he loves his ma. He loves his ma.
Yeah.
It's just cute.
It is. So you're right. There is he's kind of ripped from that status quo, and we eagerly revel in him being returned later on with the flowers at the door.
Oh my god, yeah,
Sonny. So the road movie, time tested adventure formula here, and I love
James Marsden in a car with a CGI character.
Yeah.
I'm no other comment. I'm just saying we've seen a lot of that.
Yeah, no, for sure.
We have.
So I love the FCC joke, by the way. The whole she says she's an FBI agent initially, and is like, well, you guys took us off there. No, Bullwinkle, that's the FCC.
Oh god, the guys at the frickin' FCC.
Yep.
Yeah.
One of my favorite Family Guy songs, but that's neither here nor there.
Yep.
So, Boris and Natasha, they try to take out Moose and Squirrel. They still do not recognize him after 35 years, which is just priceless. The first very cartoony methods because they do not want to learn the computer, like most relics of a bygone era. They drop safes, the pianos, dynamite. There's a big old cannon, and then we just carjack them.
Mm-hmm.
So the CDI, I love that it's like a meta commentary on the evil of CGI and the internet.
Can I just say this is like totally going to be a nerd thing, but like every time they say CDI, I think of the Sega CDI.
Oh, yeah, that might be kind of intentional, maybe.
I don't know. Maybe if it is, it's a deep cut. Anyways, or I'm sorry, it's not. No, I don't even think it's Sega. I think it's like a Commodore CDI. Hold on, CDI game console. You know what it is? It's it's literally just called the CDI, and it's where the weird animated like Legend of Zelda and Mario games come from, like the ones that you see the designs from YouTube poop pop up on all the time. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about.
And it's funny, and it's funny with the CDI thing. There's a literal kid, explaining the whole CDI thing and testing it out.
Very Doogie Howser.
I do love how random that is. Yeah, and it's like the movie just does not acknowledge it at all. It's like, yep, this is happening.
I was also saying like the kids know how to work the computers and not our old cartoon characters.
Right.
But speaking of which, Code Geass has this great comparison here: the Boris and Natasha, the Team Rocket of their day, which is so right.
Oh, they totally are. Yeah, absolutely.
Blasting off again. So we demonstrate CDI, which basically is kind of like a laptop where you enter in like the wireframe and like the code of the thing you're trying to beam into the internet, the wasteland that is the internet's the web. Mm-hmm. And we have the Roger Rabbit joke, where there's some random like guys like was walking by fearlessly and says, "Oh, you mean like Roger Rabbit?" There's never been a successful way to kill a cartoon character.
Honestly, I love how it's like that gag just directly calls out all the fucking animation nerds like us in the room who were like, it literally read my mind in the moment. I was like, wait a minute, what about Roger Rabbit? That's like, and then that happened.
Nothing like Roger Rabbit. This is totally different.
Totally different. I love that. I love that. I can't express how much I love that.
But again, in a sense, Rocky Bull is kind of creepy because they're making fun of themselves every step of the way, which is just great.
Uh-huh.
Sadly, ultimately was not critic proof, but it feels like it is.
Right.
Right. So yeah, we send the cartoon weasel into I think it's a weasel. So we send
It is a weasel, yeah.
So
It's
feels
definitely
even more
meant to
Roger.
resemble a Roger Rabbit weasel at the very least. Yeah.
Basically, the bad comedian version of a Roger Rabbit weasel, who gets sent into the internet. And we see him later, so he's fine.
Yep.
And of course, later on, like the CDI just never works right. It like hits the helicopter, which is still a great gag. When we land on
I
Billy
love
Crystal.
the implication with the helicopter, by the way. I love the implication that like the helicopter is a computer generated effect.
Yep.
And the first of the 3 cameos of Jonathan Winters.
Yes.
Yes, which is totally random.
Yeah.
It's great though.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, it's fun.
How can you not love someone like Jonathan Winters?
Yeah. Yeah, let's see. So, okay, now again, with as much as I enjoy the movie, when I look back on it, the one thing kind of pierces the nostalgia is, aside from the whole Karen Sympathy screen time thing, is that there are a couple things that we have a few pointless kind of choices in the movie that are, they feel like just really amounted to nothing, or they just kind of feel like a little, like, again, like really kind of forced obstacles here and there. Like with for example, when Karen is introduced to Rocky and Bullwinkle, she backpedals off the FBI thing, just kind of giving up and then coming up with a lie. So there's kind of like a mini liar reveal of sorts. It was really pointless because no one cares, and it's like, well, why couldn't you just tell them the truth anyway? They're not going to know the difference anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, why put that in there? And then we have the again, it's very much a stress of like, okay, we have to take her out of the story, so we're going to arrest her based on very little evidence and just like instantly.
No, I mean, like, I do really like the stuff with Oli. Again, it does kind of lead to some of the funniest comedy in the movie for me. I'm not gonna lie. That being said, Dragon, I'm totally with you. That, like, just from a plot point of view, it's some of the messiest stuff that we have.
And I don't want to like ride on it, but it just really is a kind of, when you look back, it's like when there's like a time crunch on stopping, the whole really bad television plot. It's it's like
you know what that little side like plot cul-de-sac does give us though, Dragon?
What gives us the spies there's a fourth spy who's also a horse.
Well, the horse spy is hilarious, but I was going to say equally hilarious. Wait, I'm Bullwinkle J. Moose. Yeah, right, and I'm John Goodman. Just yet another. I mean, this movie is just like chock full of really good cameos. We haven't even brought up Keenan and Kel yet.
Well, we're gonna get there.
I know. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
there's just all kinds of great cameos in this thing.
Yeah.
Honestly, dare I say this? I feel like this movie kind of feels like, in some ways, a little bit of a spiritual successor to the Muppet movie, just as far as it being like a road trip with a lot of like meta humor and then also a lot of cameos.
I think they're aspiring for Muppet movie.
Totally.
It really feels like they are.
Yeah.
So again, there's the fact that in a time crunch, like, it's not only that she's like detained, it's like, well, one, she's an FBI agent who can very clearly identify herself, which really she just tried to do. It's like, oh no, the real Karen Sympathy.
Crazy more than anything else in the movie, honestly, from a plot level. Just her involvement with the FBI in general. Like, I mean, I'm sorry, I know it's a cartoon, I know we're not meant to take it that seriously, but like, there's definitely some plot hole dings happening with the FBI agent stuff.
Yep. Anyway, let's see. So speaking of which, okay. So point being, you can't just leave him by the side of the. Oh, sorry, real quick. As a kid, I was always wondering this, like, why they did this sort of thing on TV, and I love that we called it out here. So like the whole pixelation effect and the fact, like, hey, fix our faces before you. before you go. So Rocky and Bullwinkle, they're abandoned by the side of the road. You can't just leave them there. So like, don't worry, man. They're animals. They'll forage. So Rocky and Bullwinkle, they're abandoned by the roadside. They have no hope of getting a ride because knowing that they get literally run over and flattened and everything. This movie's starting to feel two-dimensional. I love that. This to me feels like one of those kind of what the goofy thing that Tiki brings up all the time. It feels like a movie where I just love the atmosphere of like things seem at their darkest. Like we go to nightfall and it's like, oh man, the screen's kind of completely black, and then they are getting really excited when he sees like, oh, there are a couple of headlights, boys, look alive. What do we have here?
Totally.
So it's just the delightful cameo, not of any of the potentially the best cameo in the whole movie. Keenan and Kel showing up as Martin and Lewis, our contemporaries, Tiki, our boys, there they are, to save the day.
All right, yeah, Keenan and Kel are great, but it kind of leads to another like really weird kind of like side tangent the plot takes. Like, I love the fact that we go to What's the Matter You. I think it's a really fun callback to the cartoon.
There's some really funny jokes about What's the Matter You I did not catch as a kid that I laughed at.
Right.
But the fact that the college used to be 2D and then over the years it became live action, which in a sense it doesn't make any sense at all, but it's hysterical.
I think that honestly, Dragon, I honestly think they go a little bit too like high concept with that whole thing.
Yeah.
To the point where, like, when they're protesting the cart, like, I do not like the fact that Wasamata U is protesting Bullwinkle Dragon. That's because sacrilege.
You know what that makes them, don't you?
What?
They're cartoonist.
I mean, even Boris and Natasha kind of were framing them and so on.
Well, they weren't really framing them. They didn't. Here's the problem.
If anything, they were trying to make him look good for the purposes of the plot.
Well, so that's the weird thing. Okay, so again, you're right. So What's the Matter You is it's a fun set piece, but when you really look at the logic here, none of it really tracks. It's a lot of conveniences. Or it's like Boris and Natasha, the whole point is like, okay, we're gonna get him in one place. We know he's gonna.
Boris and Natasha have to like hand build the water tower,
which is great. That's hysterical. It's just the idea that, okay, Boris and Natasha, they just want to get him in one place so they can shoot him with the CDI. They have carte blanche, so they're giving like a grant to the schools. So Bullwinkle will be summoned there, which again is a big gamble of like, okay, so. They have no idea that Bullwinkle's like in the car on the way there. I mean, they have the map, but the map's only going to tell them so much,
right?
And the fact, so they end up there, and they have no idea there's going to be a college protest or anything. They have no idea they're going to be in a car with a fax machine. That they're going to get a fax, and Bullwinkle's going to get an invite like that. It's just a lot of conveniences that don't really track.
It's one of those things where it's like obviously you just have to write it off as the cartoon logic that the movie is very clearly like going out of its way to embrace. But I just think the problem here is that there's just too many moving parts to it.
There are two things that Keenan and Kel crack me up in this movie. One, I love if you really listen to what Kenan Thompson's doing. He's doing like this really kind of like Gosh G. Wilkers kind of voice. Like he's like going a little high pitched and just really make him
a little bit.
Because he knows like, okay, we got to try and make ourselves seem a little more youthful here. So,
right.
The other thing too is like I don't know why, because this feels like classic Kenan and Kel, where we have like I don't know why. It feels just very kind of old school, where it's like. The dean, I think it's the dean of the college or somebody, is like walking alongside Rocky Bullwinkle and Martin and Lewis, which cute name for him, by the way, Martin Lewis. It's like, tell them boys. It says they say at the same time, it's an anti-moose rally, an anti-moose march. It's just, I just love like it's just the Kenan and Kel timing
that
on
line
that.
right there. It's an anti-moose march. Like, doesn't that just feel like a stupid scenario that would actually happen in the sitcom?
Yes, I was going to say just the in unison delivery, just like the respectability of like the dean. Tell them boys.
Oh
God. So again, it's very forced how we get here. But what we do have though, again, while it's forced how we get here, we do have like moments like Rocky's flying to save Bullwinkle, which is cool.
Which we'll get there. I think one of the biggest issues with the movie is how drawn out the whole Rocky flying again thing is.
Do you think we should have just done it one time?
I think the big issue that I have is I don't like how, like, clearly Rocky does get a win here, and I genuinely do not understand why he's so down on himself, and he's like, I guess I've lost the knack. Like, I mean, Rocky, like, you did it, bro. You stopped it. I don't know. I just think that Rocky being so pessimistic kind of drags things down a little bit.
Admittedly, the main reason Rocky can't fly is because if he can fly, the movie's over in like half an hour.
Sure.
That's the main thing. That's the problem.
Same reason the Eagles can't fly Sam and Frodo to Mordor.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. So, So Rocky's crisis there is just he's lacking motivation to fly and save the day until his friends are in peril. Which I don't know. I'm rooting for the little guy when we have these sequences though, where it's like, "Come on, Rocky, you can fly."
The song repeating.
The song repeating?
Yeah.
Yeah, we probably should have used it just one time. Using it.
That's
twice.
what I'm saying. I think the song choice is really what kind of tips it over the edge into being just a little bit on the repetitive side, honestly.
I know there's no way they could have gotten away, but it would have been hysterical if we had like the Superman theme playing on the second time when he flies.
Honestly,
I could have seen that.
I have no recollection even since I watched it last night. I don't think like the songs that you're talking about, like, you know, being repetitive. I didn't even pay attention to them, and I don't think
Even if I do read, it pops up twice. It's a needle drop that pops up twice. I think that's a little
okay. So
point being is flying theme.
Okay, so point being, I don't think it bothers me. So
sure. Right.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. So Rocky and Bullwinkle, they win over the crowd. They're gifted the car.
Yep.
Hilariously, in a hilariously clunky way, by which Keenan and Kel just very much like they have no real good reason to give the cars. Like, they own responsibility like our car, and it's a lot. So here you go. It's like, oh, okay.
Right.
Bullwinkle can't drive. He's just crashing into walls and just being a menace on the road. It's great.
Yep.
Get a cool car chase out of it. Where Bullwinkle can't drive and we're being chased by a helicopter and we land on Billy Crystal.
Yeah, that's another really good cameo.
By the way, I love that we almost have a comedy. We almost have a comic relief like reunion. If only they could have gotten Robin Williams in this movie. Which is funny because they had the ultimate bait for Robin Williams because you have his pals from his comic relief pals, but also his idol Jonathan Winters is in the movie. He could have absolutely been in this movie somewhere.
He could have.
Yep. Probably some Pie memories he didn't want to relive. I don't know.
Well, okay. Yeah, being a part of another movie adaptation of a cartoon for one thing.
Yeah,
that might honestly be part of it.
Yeah, There you go.
So Karen was in prison. She escaped by tricking the sweet guard Oli into a movie date. Steals his truck, and even the narrator says, "Oh man, that's really."
Can I also just say one of the other things that's really funny about this whole movie setup that sticks out to me is the fact that the movie they're just going to see is just called The Love Movie 2000.
And at the end, it turns out to be Rocky and Bullwinkle.
And I also just it lived in my head rent free. Just Oli's delivery when he goes up to the box office, like, "Hello, 2 for the Love Movie."
You just like that because he reminds you of the schoolbread guy.
Yes! Oh my god! Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, you read my mind there. It absolutely reminded me of the schoolbread.
Was the schoolbread guy male? Was it literally only?
It was the guy. Honestly, the schoolbread guy very much had an Oli vibe to him, Dragon. I'm not gonna lie, he very much did.
Maybe he's like Oaken's son.
Would you like to try the schoolbread?
I would love to try the schoolbread.
Oh my
Thank you.
Dude, that's still seriously like one of my core Walt Disney World memories.
Yep.
Anyways,
look at him, kids. Back when he was full of hope and schoolbread.
Back
look
when
at
I
him.
hate the Disney parks.
Yeah.
I'm going to Epcot once during my Epic Universe trip, and that's it for Disney. And I'm only just going to Epcot to ride the Guardians of the Galaxy coaster.
Tiki, when you go to Epcot, though, are you going to try the school bread again?
Dragon, I can't try the school bread because it's
I
got
thought-
ingredients I'm allergic to, but I'm definitely going to go back to that bakery.
Were you also going to be doing this, or was it just a joke that you were, because you brought this up in one of your stand-up comedies where you're going to like go to Hollywood Studios and check out the Villains show?
No, that was a joke, Eli. I am definitely not checking out the Villains show.
I just wanted to verify.
Yeah, he's given up on everything. He's just, it's very sad.
I haven't given up on Universal.
Yeah, because you're a full team Universal.
I have switched sides. Yes,
it's a heel turn. He's wearing the black kind of like bandana and wrestling. Now that's where we're at.
Right. All right. Anyway,
he's in Muppets from Space instead of Gremlins 2. Right
yes.
Okay.
See, eventually he'll be in Gremlins 2, but not yet.
That's an interesting comparison.
All right, we have it's Jaden says there's a joke where someone mentions going into reruns and Keenan and Kel say,
that'll never happen to us.
And Keenan and Kel ended a couple months after Rocky Bullwinkle, and that's definitely a weird. I mean, it's almost kind of like set because Kel's life kind of went in the shit. I don't know how much you guys know about that, but like, I'm pretty sure, like, I'm not entirely sure the depths of it, but I think he got addicted to drugs after the show was over. Obviously, Keenan went on to SNL, but I think Kel, like, if not drugs, at the very least, like, best case scenario, he really was struggling to get work. It's kind of, that line is kind of sad in retrospect. Like, Keenan was kind of the golden goose and Kel kind of got lost behind. That's kind of where the arc ended. But another funny thing with that too is that, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, this might be some of the absolute last footage that we see these two together in.
That until the eventual reunion, I think that's about accurate.
Yeah, the eventual reunion, and then of course like Good Burger too. But
I was gonna mention Good Burger too.
Actually, I read Kenan Thompson's book, which was good. And he kind of talked about the Kel stuff. He didn't go into details on like what the exact specifics of what was going on with Kel. It was more about his side of it, where the whole there's a lot of talk in the press and stuff about why aren't you and Kel together, and like someone's reaching out, that kind of stuff.
It's a very sad kind of just like that's just the reality of show business. Sometimes there's no bad guy in the situation. I certainly don't blame Keenan for jumping on the SNL bandwagon. And I mean, look at Keenan now. He's like probably one of the absolute most consistent cast members SNL has ever had. So like he's really made a legacy for himself. But yeah, it is kind of a shame that like Keenan ultimately had more of that kind of like star it factor than Kel did. So anyways, this is not a Keenan and Kel podcast.
Well, it could be.
It could be. Thanks, it's Jaden for that comment for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so I love the rental gags. By the way, I'm sorry, real quick though, we got to talk about the Karen collides into the Rocky and Bullwinkle story yet again. And they get arrested and they go to trial, which apparently works really fast in this universe whenever you get in legal trouble. So they're instantly going to the trial where Bullwinkle chooses to represent them as an old school lawyer with the powdered wig and everything. And we have Judge Cameo presiding, and Judge Cameo, played by Whoopi Goldberg.
Yep.
Muppet God. Whoopi Goldberg.
No, she really is kind of the Orson Welles of this movie, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
Where she just kind of like gives them the free pass.
Did you notice who the prosecutor was?
No, I did not.
Jeff Ross, Roastmaster Jeff Ross, as Eli's. But yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Even I know who he is too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Jeff Ross done so many other stuff, and he's big time actor.
So Bullwinkle kind of lands him in hot water until she hears the word celebrity, puts the glasses on, like, oh my God, it's Rocky and Bullwinkle. So his judges does not listen at all to any of these cases. Pick up any of the context clues, but she reminds him of the immutable rule that celebrities are exempt from persecution.
Which again, very much feels like it's in the same flavor as the rich and famous contract.
Yeah. It does. It's also commentary on Hollywood at the time. Still to this day, frankly, they skirt by.
Yep.
Pretty much. All right, let's see. So then we have the Jonathan Winters is supplying us with all sorts of aeronautic vehicles. You get the helicopter, now we got the plane, the biplane, and I love the cheapo rental car gag where like
I adore the gag where the rental car company is like so militant that the second their contract expires, they are on them.
I love that.
And that to me just feels like one of the most classic, like old school J. Ward, Rocky and Bullwinkle bits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. So, yeah.
I was just gonna say we did miss a couple of other cameos before Karen and Rocky and Bullwinkle reunite.
All right, we'll hit him with it. Go on.
Well, because I haven't really talked that much in this podcast, but I could take it from here where I'll say this, because a few other cameos we get actually, because this is where Boris, Natasha, they're in pursuit of Rocky and Bullwinkle in the chopper, and because some funny moments here and there, and other cameos we get Don Novello, appearing as himself, as twins, and
right, that was weird. That was random.
and then when say using the device, what's it called again? The C what?
CDI.
Thank you, CDI. Well, when Boris is using the CDI to strike at Rocky and Bullwinkle, well, what happens is that it causes the chopper to shrink and just literally disappear. And then, luckily for Boris and Natasha, they land on these mattresses where they're being sold by Billy Crystal. And he's doing.
Did already point that out, but yeah.
Oh, he did. Oh, okay. I think I missed him saying Billy Crystal. So. Yeah, but that's pretty funny at Billy Crystal making a cameo. And you know what? Because we got both John Goodman and Billy Crystal in the movie pre-Monsters.
That's true.
Yep. What a coincidence.
All right.
Yeah, so just couldn't miss mentioning, at least, well, I know because I missed Dragon mentioning Billy Crystal, but didn't mention Don, what's his last name? So because his cameo is where he plays twins. So.
Okay,
go ahead.
All right, so let's see. So Rocky's big moment. He takes flight again. He saves Karen when she's jettisoned from the biplane because it's too heavy with three. Even if they are cartoon characters, it's too heavy with them all in there.
And the CGI of him carrying Karen across the Statue of Liberty is probably the most dated shot in the whole movie.
Yeah. And
then the actual most dated shot of the whole movie is when we see the New York skyline. One more year until the Twin Towers fall. That's not ominous at all in retrospect.
You don't have to say it so gleefully, but yeah.
I'm not saying it gleefully. I'm saying it with like a, that's kind of borderline.
Well, look, this came out in 2000, so
that's what I'm saying though. I'm saying it's weird to see just because it was so close to 2001.
Yeah, you're right on that. So.
Anyways, honestly, that might be one of the last times the Twin Towers were prominently used in a movie before we had to censor them for a long time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure wasn't there at least maybe a few more movies that came out in between 2000 and early 2001?
There definitely were, but I'm just saying once 9/11 happened, any movie that had the Twin Towers in a shot at all, for the most part, had to be reworked.
Yeah.
Though some movies did make a statement on by putting them in or doing something like that. For example, if memory serves, I know there was a big to-do about it, but in the marketing and the trailer was out completely. But for Spider-Man,
yes,
in the back, if you do pause and you look real closely. I want to say in the actual movie, though, they did allow
Yep.
the Twin Towers to be in there, but just like on the marketing and the posters, that they did X.
Yeah,
I mean,
very-
obviously the original teaser
Yeah.
trailer, which is a fucking fantastic teaser trailer, just conceptually with like the web between the two towers. I mean, come on, that is iconic imagery right there. It's just
By the
very
way,
unfortunate.
Tiki, I keep telling you, you got to watch that Icons on Earth Spider-Man things. They talk all about that thing.
Yeah, if I need to watch any of those icons on Earth things, it's probably the Spider-Man.
It'll make you feel good, man. Just like
Okay, now you're sounding like a George C. Scott smoke cloud.
Come on, no, seriously though, it'll be a
make
comfort
you feel
watch.
good. All right,
Yeah,
all
just
right.
put on a Spider-Man T-shirt, grab some donuts, watch the Icons on Earth Spider-Man thing. It'll be good.
If I may comment on this, because like the whole thing, just the whole thing of like the Spider-Man teaser, because it does seem like that was supposed to be the proper introduction to Spider-Man, because his introduction is just random.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it was definitely supposed to be the actual introduction.
Yeah, even what the nostalgia critic had to say about that, and also another mentioning of the fact that movies, post 9/11, some of them having to cut out the Twin Towers. That is except for Steven Spielberg's AI, artificial intelligence. I mean, Spielberg made a specific statement why the choice was made to keep the Twin Towers in artificial intelligence.
Because that was like the Twin Towers happening like in the distant future, right? That was the whole statement of that movie.
Yes, exactly.
Anyways, all right, guys, this is not a 9/11 podcast. A lot of side tangents here tonight.
Yeah. So much we've talked about that has nothing to do with Rocky and Bullwinkle.
So terrifying vegetable heads. Let's talk about the fucking sleep paralysis demons.
Yes.
Because my God, did this live in my head as like very much unsettling imagery. And I will admit, as a kid, I liked this movie a lot. Again, I appreciated the humor a lot. I think a lot of the humor and sensibility stuck with me. I think I was resistant to going. It wasn't like childhood trauma level of like, oh my God, this literally like haunted my nightmares. But it was definitely like the vegetable creatures at the end were a reason for me to be like, oh, that's just inherently unpleasant. I don't want to revisit that anytime soon.
Always reminds me of the whole like part of that Spy Kids plot where we had like the
agents.
Oh,
it's very reminiscent of that. Yes.
The agents who were turned into like the Flooplies, like the Floop's minion guys. Well, not his minion, but anyway.
No, his minions.
Well, yeah, but his were, I'm saying they had a minion who was named Minion, but technically, his minions were like
Dragon Universal does not own the word minion, contrary to what Megamind 2.
Well, no, I'm saying he literally had a minion whose name was Minion, and he had like all the heads, and it was Tony Shalhoub. Anyway, we're just gonna.
Anyways, Joe Gias points out that Silver Surfer actor Doug Jones played the carrot guy. I actually did not know that. That's a funny cameo as well.
Oh yeah, I forget who the other two guys are, but yeah.
The other two actors who play, and actually literally even on the IMDb page, they're credited as FBI Agent Potato, FBI Agent Carrot, and FBI Agent Radish. FBI Agent Radish was played by Jane Edith Wilson, and FBI Agent Potato was played by Mark Holton.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
Doug Jones is the man, of course. Should have won an Oscar.
Indeed.
Yeah, and he's pretty much the king of he's one of those top actors that's the king of creatures.
He's the king of like practical creatures, whereas Andy Serkis is the king of motion capture.
There you go. Yeah.
Now imagine pairing those two guys for a movie someday.
I would love to see those two guys paired for a movie.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
Yeah, but how would that movie turn out? What would that be like with both of them?
I don't
know. I think something with Guillermo del Toro.
Maybe a combination of maybe have say Serkis be a motion capture character and have Doug Jones play a practical creature.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
All right.
So point being, I love that Boris and Tasha just had the idea like, well, let's just lie to fearlessly. Let's just say that we actually succeed and they get like the red carpet treatment. You know, they get all the staffs pulled out. You know, like wine and bubbly in the jet on the way back.
I also kind of like how they acknowledge that Rocky and Bullwinkle are kind of inherently idiots, and what are the odds that they're actually going to be effective at stopping them? Like. Yep. Honestly, they're not wrong. They're not wrong in that logic. That logic actually kind of tracks.
So Bullwinkle ends up at the White House instead of New York. God. He thinks Washington is New York.
I think some of the best like Bullwinkle is an idiot stuff in this movie happens in this like Washington section.
I love like the Randy Quaid characters like saying Washington, Bullwinkle, Washington. Oh, he looks different without his wig.
Oh God!
Bullwinkle's whole thing of going to Washington is to speak to the president about the trees.
Oh. Yep, very kind of Mr. Chips goes to Washington kind of a thing.
And then of course,
Mr. Smith. Sorry, Mr. Smith. Yeah, the other guy also went to Washington, but yes, Mr. Smith.
And then of course, this scene also has one of the best plot twists in the movie where Bullwinkle's head is so thick that he isn't affected by the Soviet awful TV brainwashing.
Pottsylvanian.
Pottsylvania.
I mean, seriously, that's a great gag.
It is.
Plot device.
So again, also the whole. It's very easy. We talked about Batman Forever recently, which is it's kind of like a little bit of commentary on the whole the TV kind of turning everyone's brains. The most thing we did literally here.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would argue more effectively here. Honestly, I think it's more streamlined, and honestly, I think the actual threat is a little scarier, just with the vegetable people.
Well, yeah, we had no idea would actually turn people to vegetables until we brought them out.
No, but I'm just saying, like, once the vegetable people are introduced, it's kind of like, okay, like that is higher stakes than the whatever the hell Jim Carrey's doing.
Let's see. So Bullwinkle, this is where things are really starting to cook. Where Bullwinkle is he's immune to it. We have to get him all the way to New York in record time, and we reveal, oh wait a minute, the computer. And he basically happens upon the solution of like, if only you could send kind of information across a great distance super fast. Like Bullwinkle, that's it. And he shoves him in the scanner.
So Bullwinkle's surfing the web and coming on all the like late 90s websites, dude. I don't. That was like fucking deja vu to my early childhood, man.
Didn't it feel good? Wasn't it cool?
It was great. It was great. It was just like, oh my God, like. My life will never be that simple ever again. It honestly kind of made me feel a little bittersweet, Dragon. It was kind of like a taste of what my life used to be like when times were more innocent.
What about you, young man?
Yeah, Eli, you weren't alive when most of these websites were in their heyday.
So AOL was a thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, because this came out 1 year before I was born. So how the heck am I supposed to know and be familiar with all that stuff?
No, I'm just saying it's funny how the internet stuff is going to hit you differently than it hits me. That's definitely a funny thing to think of when we think of the generation gap between the two of us.
I mean, of course, for me, even though I didn't grow up with that stuff on the internet, I'm well aware of what some stuff on the internet was like back then, during your guys' times. So,
but to live it, man, and then to see it. So, and let's just call a spade here. This scene is absolutely Ralph breaks the internet before Ralph breaks the internet.
As a kid and still to this day, I just get so invested in oh, look at Bullwinkle go. He's going to save the day.
It's great. Honestly, it's probably the most cinematic moment in the whole movie, honestly.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so yeah, Bullwinkle ends up in New York. We get the big climax, and they fight.
Again, Bullwinkle charging De Niro, which is hilarious.
Uh-huh.
I love the big moment.
That is not a hot take. That is a take that I will very much sign off on. Yes, The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle
Oh
is
man,
absolutely a better movie than Ralph Breaks the Internet. No question.
I enjoyed Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Well, I
I
like it until the
enjoyed
third
parts
act.
of Breaks the Internet. I also loathe parts of Ralph Breaks the Internet.
I think it works until Act 3.
Yeah, basically.
With the multiple Ralphs.
Yeah, well, like the whole giant I guess the attention hungry Ralph, or whatever the whole
It goes off the rails.
Yeah,
I also
didn't bother
think
me.
both of the lead characters are kind of acting out of character. Like, I don't know, it's not a good sequel in that regard. I do not like how much we write off Fix-It Felix and Calhoun in that movie. Anyways, this is not a Ralph Breaks the Internet podcast.
So we have like the moose is loose.
Yes.
Get them!
Yep, big old action scene. We take everyone out. Rocky ties them all up, and then we have the PSA to vote for who you want and save Frostbite Falls.
Which is really funny. I mean, given how much of a hellscape our current political climate is.
Yeah. By the way, we had the really. You got to admit. Okay, look. After we learned the age to turn the vegetables with the very on nose, like fearless leader, do whatever you want to us. Just leave America alone.
Right.
Corny as all get out. Yep.
And this was pre 9/11 patriotism.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So we deliver the message there. CDI sends our baddies again. Given the time we're covering this podcast, we're getting close to a certain holiday, so it's kind of appropriate. All the very pro-America stuff, as well as the CDI send the bad guys back to the internet via colorful fire.
Utterly patriotic, like they're blown back to the internet in streaks of red, white, and blue. That's silly, but also kind of awesome.
Yeah. So we have our warm and fuzzy ending after, Karen thanks Rocky and Bullwinkle, and we spell out the moral, which it's nice, but again, like you barely spent any time with them both.
Yeah.
So she spells it out, the whole, again, good stuff. Just, whole child, you remind me of, it's good to kind of remain the inner youth and everything, and she's got something in her eye. So,
we do cut back to the inner child gag a little too much, but I don't know. I think it works, and I do think the kid genuinely has some pretty strong screen presence to her. So
yeah, it just feels like maybe we did it over 3 times.
I know.
All right, let's see. So we see Rocky and Bullwinkle, they're back on top, and now they inherited really bad television. Which this is a cute joke. RBTV, Rocky and Bullwinkle television.
What's the difference?
What's the difference?
By the way, I think I can do this. I don't know. I don't think. Kogios actually commented and questioned this, asked this: is Fearless Leader being hit by an angry Bullwinkle supposed to be a raging bull reference?
I would like to think so, but I don't know. It might be a bit of a stretch.
I mean, Bullwinkle's making angry moose sounds, I presume.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Bullwinkle is a moose, so that's why I kind of feel like I'm leaning towards no. It's probably not intentional.
Yeah. Also, I was gonna point this out that not all the goons do that much when Fearless Leader tells them to get them. Only a few do. There's a few that chase Bullwinkle and
honestly, I kind of feel like Fearless Leader's whole reaction to Bullwinkle being there is a little bit subdued. Honestly, given how Boris and Natasha straight up lied to him about them being dead. I don't know. That's a little bit of a nitpick. I don't really care. It doesn't derail the plot at all, but I did kind of notice that. It felt especially off.
Especially since there was a moment where Boris and Natasha, after all that time trying to, take down Moose and Squirrel, even Natasha most notably bringing up that, maybe they should just, give up and they can maybe have children of their own, etc. with what they say. So, yeah.
All right. That's about it. We get the great payoff to the Oli gag.
Yep.
Again, I
Yeah,
think the funniest element of the whole thing is the fact that he has the fucking stubble.
Yep, poor guy's probably lost his job at this point, but he's
And the TV network that Fearless Leader made is now changed to Rocky and Bullwinkle Television.
yeah.
And here's something else that was in the trailer but changed in the movie: the whole thing of Bullwinkle saying "What's up" being changed with "What's the difference?"
Oh God, and that's a good change because the "was up" thing is very, very late '90s coded.
That would have been bad dated.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I guess it seems fine that it was just in the trailer.
Yeah. All right. So to see the movie together finally, which is now the Rocky and Bullwinkle movie, and we have a real nice happy ending with the narrator is reunited with Mother.
Yep, and Minnie is still attached to the Rocky and Bullwinkle film, as we see.
She got her points at the end of the day. She did well.
Yeah.
Well, not super well because most of the credits all this movie was in the movie itself, kind of almost Blazing Saddles style, but yeah.
Yeah, good point.
So Rocky and Bullwinkle, they're in a good place. Rocky,
like, I work for Jay Ward.
There you go. I work for Jay Ward and Universal.
Bring me a salt and pepper for all the scenery I'm gonna chew.
John Goodman. Yeah, John Goodman and that actor in a scene together, that would have been amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So things are good. Rocky Forrest is back, and Rocky spells out the end, which is how you want to end a Rocky and Bullwinkle movie.
Yeah. All right, final thoughts, gentlemen. Eli, you can start.
Okay. Well, just in the end, because looking back at the Rocky and Bullwinkle film for what it is, I mean, yeah, because, despite, how the movie ended up turning out to be, and it was not really good, but hey, at least I actually didn't quite realize this, that, yeah, it's nice to see that the late Roger Ebert actually gave it some praise.
He gave it like a 3-star review, yeah.
Okay, oh, that's good, yeah. But yeah, point being is that, again, like I said, the many times that I've watched Rocky and Bullwinkle, and having done a rewatch and for this podcast, and over time, I really enjoy Rocky and Bullwinkle because, when it comes to movies like Rocky and Bullwinkle, I'm pretty much a good majority am softened on those kind of movies like Rocky and Bullwinkle. I think that, what the Rocky and Bullwinkle movie is pretty interesting, and for what it had to offer, a pretty good cast of talents, and the jokes here and there are pretty funny. The cameos, yeah, I mean some things that, and with what we've had to say, but sure, because it's definitely not one of the top best movie adaptations of a Jay Ward cartoon. But for me personally, my opinion, and the same goes for anybody else, that Rocky and Bullwinkle, the movie, it's pretty good. I enjoy it for what it is, and just, yeah, that's that.
All right, Dragon.
Well, again, I still got a soft spot for The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle. I mean, like, looking back on it with some perspective, is like, yeah, it's not all gravy, but you know what? Again, it's true to Rocky and Bullwinkle. It's, I mean, like, I hate to cite nostalgia critic, but it's, well, these days, and it's like, yeah, it has a point. Much like Rocky and Bullwinkle, the conceit is like, not every joke's gonna land. Some puns are gonna be great or cute, and some puns are gonna be, maybe
some
not the
puns
night
are going to be very,
album.
very self-aware that they're terrible.
Yeah, and they have that too. So I love the self-aware nature of it. I think it does right by Rocky and Bullwinkle. I mean, it's I'm not gonna say it was necessarily ahead of its time, but it was very much. It was.
I think it was a little. I think between this and Emperor's New Groove, like those two came out like pretty back to back.
All right, so maybe it was ahead of its time. So yeah, they again, it has like a lot of the flavor stuff that we like, stuff that I like, stuff that again, we have, like, we're nailing our casting, we're doing right by the characters, and it just feels like it is. A George of the Jungle? No. Does it feel like what Rocky and Bullwinkle should be in kind of long form? I mean, yeah, obviously we're searching for some plot, but Rocky and Bullwinkle's never been really plot driven anyway, and they know this, and they're pointing this out there in the movie. So at the end of the day, it's still good. It's still as good a time now as it was when I was a kid. So I mean, I really appreciate that. So it's a win. It's not the best movie ever, but it's a win.
Yeah, and I mean, I for one think this is super underrated. I mean, even still, like, and this is coming from someone where, like, I totally acknowledge that, like, the cultural relevance of Rocky and Bullwinkle sadly has kind of fallen off over the years. But as someone who genuinely was invested in the characters from a young age, like, I think this really did it justice. And then as someone going back to this movie as an adult, now fully appreciating what the original show was, I think it just nailed that. I mean, I do think in some ways it was ahead of its time with, like, just how self-referential and meta and self-aware it was. I don't know. I really think that this movie does a great job of just committing to the bit. I think the casting is really on point. I think the effects for the most part still hold up. For the most part, nothing really looks that bad, and a lot of stuff still looks really good.
Yeah, I agree on that.
Yeah, so overall, I definitely think this thing is a win.
Mm-hmm.
Right, to echo Dragon. Okay, well, big thanks to Code Geass for joining us throughout the evening, and also it's Jaden, man. We really enjoyed having you. Again, if you're new to the channel, by all means, stick around because we're always engaging with people in the chat. We hope you enjoyed watching us this evening, and yeah, we hope to see you again sometime. All right.
Yeah, because it's great to see someone new discovering this channel. So
indeed. Okay. All right. Well, that'll be about it, folks. Stay tuned for more. See y'all later. Have a good night, and so on and so forth.
Adios.
Trying to think of a good bit to end on, but there's honestly kind of an embarrassment of riches here.
What's the difference?
Oh, Winkle J. Moose.